So, hi Gary, it's very nice to see you. Today we are
Good morning.
talking about the power of strategic influence, the India perspective, Gary. So, are we ready for this?
I am. Good evening. So good morning for me, but for good evening for you, I suppose. So nice to be with you, Shanti. Thank you.
And Gary, tomorrow is India's 75th Independence Day, and we are very enthusiastic about it.
Well, congratulations. That's exciting. We just had ours here in the US on July 4th. So it's
Yes.
similar, independence, but 1776, but 75 years.
Yes.
That's very exciting.
Thank you so much, Gary. And a quick introduction to who is Gary to our Indian audience. For those who are familiar with Shark Tank, one of the Shark Tank investors, I think a couple of them have actually recommended Gary's book. Gary C. Laney, that's his full name, and he's the CEO of Success Masters. He's an author, a previous high-tech executive, and a serial entrepreneur. A dynamic speaker, Gary has motivated tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, business professionals, and salespeople. Prior to his entrepreneurial run, Gary spent 25 years as an executive in corporate, high-tech, and commercial publishing. He is known for his ability to turn around businesses and create a dramatic revenue growth. He has a triple MBA from Northwestern Kellogg School of Management, and his domain expertise is well founded in industries such as business networking, e-commerce, financial services, high-tech software, telecommunications, and publishing. His book is, as I said, his book is recommended by many people, and everybody has great things to say about this book. And it's my pleasure to introduce him to an Indian audience, especially ahead of our Independence Day. And it's a delight to discuss about the development our country has achieved. Happy Independence Day, everyone. Often we take our influence for granted, right? We influence everybody, right? From our children to our parents, our pets, everybody we influence. We influence communities, but we often take it for granted and we don't know what to do that most of the time. We barely plan it and we forget about strategy. It is usually considered a PR person's work. Knowingly or otherwise, every day we influence so many people around us. What if we strategize how, when, and why we want to have a sphere of influence? The best quote from Gary's book is that if you don't manage your reputation, someone else will. This really struck a chord with me because there was a time when I was excited about being influential. I love networking with people, and thanks to lockdown, it all slowed down, right? And during these virtual times, the concept has gained more momentum, and I found very few authors exploring the concept. And today, if you go to Amazon and type strategic influence, I don't think more than 2 books will appear, and I'm happy that Gary's book is, bestseller among them. And it's for everyone. Very few authors are exploring this concept, and this book is for everyone who wants to use this powerful tool of influence to succeed in life. Welcome to this talk, Gary. I'm sure Indian audience are really happy to see you. So you have heard about
Thank
the
you.
phenomenal. Okay. Hello.
I'm here. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, Gary. So you might have heard about this phenomenal growth in Indian startup ecosystem, right? What are your views about the same? Like we have 73,000 roughly startups today, and we have 105 unicorns, 105 unicorns. So what do you think about this growth?
Well, so first of all, it's excuse me, I've been involved in many entrepreneurial type of events, including some in India. And so very, very impressed with the initiative that's going on in the world right now and in India about people wanting to, they talk about this great resignation here in the US. We talk about that, which means people are leaving their jobs, they're starting their own companies, they're becoming self-sufficient, they're learning how to become innovative. So all of this leads so directly into what I've been teaching about over the years, is because if you want to become successful in life, you have to learn how to take charge of who you are. Be responsible for the things that happen in your life. Don't become a victim, from others that are trying to tell you that you can't do something. You need to take charge, believe in yourself, have faith, and then mostly is be creative. So my book is, I'll just show you real quickly. So, because I know we've talked about this.
Yes.
I call it the power of strategic influence, because strategic means that we're doing things on purpose. When you're a little kid, at least when I was growing up, if somebody came up and hit you, in the arm, and you tell the teacher, he hit me on purpose. So what does that mean? It means he intended to do it. He wanted to do it. There was a reason why he did it. So in life, when we grow up as adults, we need to also be intentional. Maybe not to hit people. Let's not, I don't want to hit people, but I want to know that if I do something, I do it on purpose. I do it for a reason that means something to me, that motivates me, gives me passion, and helps me to become, the person that I know I can become. So going back to what you talk about, the startup thing, this initiative, it's really a revolution. It's a movement, and it's happening everywhere. And what's so great about it is you can do it from your home. You can do it anywhere. Just a couple of people that have some idea, that are innovative, that want to do something, can actually do it. You don't need a lot of funding. When you get to a point where you want to grow dramatically, you do need funding. You need to have support, and that's where I come in. That's where the power of strategic influence comes in, because you have to have connections with the right kinds of people that believe in you, that see your value, and want to help you succeed. So that's kind of the beginning. That's the nutshell version of kind of what my book's all about.
So Gary, we see that this aspect has not been much explored. So what were your thoughts when you started off, writing? Because you did not have much references, right? Someone speaking about strategic influence, you did not have much material to go with, right? All the things you have to start from the scratch. So is there any story behind it? Like, how did you start off? How long did it take for you?
Well, yeah. So let me kind of give you a little bit of background. So I've had like 3 or 4 careers. People go through those things. Some people can stay in one thing their entire life. I started out in a family business. My father was an entrepreneur. He owned several businesses, and mostly retail. And so I grew up in a business where I was learning everything from the time I was a kid. And by the time I was an adult and went to college, I mean, I had a pretty good education. I call it my first MBA, where I learned how to run a business, how to do the marketing, advertising, how to promote, and how to connect with people, and then how to do the financing. So that was important to me. But kind of my second part of my life and my second career, I met a man named Stephen R. Covey. Stephen R. Covey was the author of the famous book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And that was significant to me because it taught me how to approach relationships in a win-win fashion. So before you begin something, you think of the end in mind, you think of where you want to go, where you want to be, you envision the future, the success you want to have, and then you have to find the right kind of people to help you do that. By the way, it has to be win-win. It can't be win-lose or lose-win, or it won't last. It's not strategic in that terms, because strategic means it has to be long-term. So for me, I started teaching those concepts from the time I was in my early 20s. And for the next 35 years, I've been teaching them. And I should say that I've added on to a lot of those concepts by expanding and developing things that help me to even help people on a relationships basis to be more successful. So the reason it came about is because I've had all these concepts. I've been teaching them for 35 years, both in college, in business, and academic, type circles. And during COVID, which was kind of interesting, we all had a very, dramatic experience where all of a sudden we couldn't do the things we normally could do. We couldn't travel. We couldn't be with each other in meetings. We couldn't do the physical contact like we've had previously. So I had some downtime because I just sold a business, and I was getting ready to start another one that required us to be together in kind of an event type setting. I couldn't do that. I had about 6 months, I thought. At the time, I thought COVID would last 6 months. It's still going on. So I guess that was a wrong assessment. None of us really knew. But I thought I had 6 months. So I planned for the next 6 months to take advantage of my time. I had a daughter, I had a granddaughter, and my wife who were writing, and they inspired me. And so I said, you know what, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to start writing myself. I didn't know what it would turn into. I didn't know if I'd just end up with a chapter or a book. But I soon realized that all the things I've been teaching for 35 years came together. I was able to organize it and write this book in a 6-month period. I mean, from start to finish, to the time it was published, it took about 6 months. So that's the reason I did it. Number one, I knew I had a book in me. Previously, I had been so busy in my different positions as VP or CEO of different types of businesses that I didn't really have the time to sit down and architect a book. But during COVID, I had some downtime. I mean, personal downtime where I could dedicate, and it also allowed me to reach out to other people that had that available time, who I interviewed in my book, who matched a lot of the content of my book, and also I also surveyed over 1,000 leaders that to find out what they thought about business, about influence, about developing new startups. So that was kind of the crux of it. It came together really nicely. And I'm happy with the way it turned out. And since then, I've had just great response from it, and including you. So thank you so much for your support.
Yes, Gary, I've read that book and it's amazing. Every line, it's like, I stopped reading books, by the way. I stopped reading books because I developed some vision issues. And this book was a wake up call. Someone giving 35 years of life experience. And as I told you in our earlier call, you have mentored me through that book. That book is actually my wake up call that come on, get up, do something more. Okay, so
Wow.
that's amazing. That's amazing. It pulled me out of that shell which I created for myself. And that's amazing. And Gary, many like me. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, Gary. Gary, right?
Gary is great. Yeah, nobody names their children Gary anymore because it's not a popular name. Gary Cooper was a famous movie star years ago, but so my name is fading away. That's okay. So I'll just go down in history, but you're saying it just right.
Yeah, no problem. With your book, everybody will start naming their kids Gary again. You'll be the
I
best.
don't have
You
one of
are
those
the best-selling
biblical.
author, and I hope they start naming future entrepreneurs as Gary.
Oh, thank you. I would love it. So I keep asking my children, name them one of your kids after me, and then they all want the popular names. So that's okay.
Okay, that's good to know actually. So Gary, nowadays it become essential for every business, that is, especially small ones, to build an online presence. Since many Indians now are first generation business owners, any specific tips you could share? It's also a taboo in Indian household to start a business. Now I'm considered semi-employed or unemployed because I'm doing something different. Everybody else is, working in that corporate jobs, right? So that is a norm. And slowly we are breaking that barrier. But any specific tips you have regarding this? This is everybody's story, by the way.
Well, so you want me to give some advice to upcoming
First
entrepreneurs?
generation entrepreneurs.
Well, so I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so it was second nature for me by the time I was an adult to want to start a business, even though I went the corporate route, and I did that for 25 years. And but I was doing businesses on the side, so I've been involved in 20 different businesses in my lifetime, and many of those I started myself. Others I bought, expanded, improved, and then exited from. But a few tips probably that will help anyone, I think, would be number one is trying to find out what motivates you. So in my book, I teach something called the personal driving forces. I don't know if you remember that during the book. I call them PDFs, not the Adobe PDF, but the Gary Laney personal driving forces. And what that really means is you have to identify certain driving forces, certain passions, and really the purpose of why you want to do what you want to do, and what really means anything to you in life. So I have 7 of them that I've identified that I've used over and over in my life that help me to motivate when things get tough or challenging, or I'm not sure I want to go a certain direction. I step back and say, what really motivates me? What am I trying to accomplish? And why would I be doing this? I have a friend who I interviewed in the book. His name is Gary Kennedy. He was the first president of Oracle USA. So, historically, a very important person. Oracle is one of the largest software companies in the world, if not, one of the probably top 3 for sure. Anyway, in our dialogue, I asked him, I said, why do you do the things you do? And why did you choose a certain path and journey that you went on? Pardon me. And Gary told me, he says, before I do something, I always stop the whole process and I say, if I do this, will I make a difference? That was really the key. So somebody's asking me to become the CEO. Somebody's asking me to get involved in a charity. Somebody's asking me to lead some kind of initiative. So number one, am I interested? Okay, you have to have some interest. And number 2, do I think I can make a difference if I get involved? If not, I probably will let somebody else do it because I need to know that I make an impact. And what is that impact? It's influence. The way I motivate someone is through my example, through my teaching, and through my reputation. So if someone believes in me, they think that if I get involved, that they can trust me, that they know I'm going to make an impact, that I'm going to do my best, then I have influence because they're going to follow me, and the things that we do together will become very, very important. So that's number one. I think you have to identify what your purpose is. I call them personal driving forces. Excuse me. And then secondly is this what I call the flip side of that same formula is I have motivation, but what am I good at? So why get involved in something that you don't have any skill sets? So number one, I have motivation. I want to, and by the way, becoming rich is not a purpose. I mean, people can say that's okay, probably for short term, that'll help you to get motivated because you want to make a lot of money. It's not the thing that'll help you to become successful. You need to identify those things that'll help you to realize, why am I doing what I'm doing? The second part of what I call competencies, and competencies are really the things that say, what am I good at, or what do I want to become good at? Because they are skill sets that can be learned. A lot of people don't realize that. Someone who is a good public speaker probably wasn't a good public speaker to begin with. They probably weren't great at communicating or speaking or becoming that master of influence when it comes to sharing some story. So if you want to become, a master communicator, you have to say, I need experience. I need to start practicing. I need to get feedback, and I need to learn how to communicate something that motivates and moves people. Excuse me, I'm gonna get a little water. I'm having a little trouble here.
Please.
So in the competencies the ones I'm sharing in my book came from a survey that I talked about, where I surveyed over 1,000 leaders, men and women, and asked them, what does it take to become a leader? Why are some certain leaders effective? How do leaders make an impact and get things done? There was a survey done by Gallup in recent years. Gallup's very famous for doing polls and surveys. And the survey said that only 13% of the managers or leaders know how to manage people. That means 87% in their survey, and they surveyed thousands of leaders, only 87% don't know how to manage people to get them to produce a result. So, wow, we've really missed the mark. How do we get people to know, well, and how do we do that, Shanti? How do you get the knowledge and the skill set to manage people so they will actually be motivated and do what you say that they think that you want them to do? I think that comes through experience of having interaction with people, achieving things with other people in teams, become an example yourself and knowing how to produce things. But then knowing as a leader, there are 10 things that came out of this study that tell me that were ranked from all these leaders I talked to that you need to have in order to become a successful leader. Some of those, I'll just start with. Number one is actually just being influential. So that there's a skill to being influential.
Yes.
So I want to be influential. How do you do that? I mean, have you ever thought about that? What does it take to become influential?
Create value.
Create value. Thank you. So I'm going to come in with personal value, number one, which means I offer something that people perceive as value, and they can exchange their value with mine, and we accomplish something together. So it has to be integrated. So I call that personal value. That's the basic of the influential. Number two, you have to have other skill sets that people would perceive you as being influential. Number one is, are you good at connecting with other people, partnering with other people, bringing people together, having value at introducing people? And people really value that, maybe sometimes higher than anything else, that you are connected, you know how to make things happen because you have resource, you know who to go to get the kind of help you need. You may not be the person that knows how to do those things, but you know how to put the right people together to make it happen. Elon Musk is a good example of that. He is not a space scientist. He was not a financier. I mean, he learned how to bring the right teams together, how to get them, to charge them with responsibility, motivate them, reward them, and to come out with an amazing thing that had never been done before with electric cars. I mean, look at all the things he's doing.
Life-changing,
So that
the planet at least.
you have to plan it. Thank you. So Stephen Covey, when I was being mentored by him, and I was mentored and trained by him for 10 years, said that you have to learn how to plan something and envision it. He says, begin with the end in mind. So make a plan, but write it down and really describe what that looks like. Don't just have just say, I want to get to Europe if you're in America, or you want to get to America if you're in Europe or India. How does that look to you? How do you go about getting there in the first place? Do you have enough money to get there? If you don't, how do you create the funding? If you want to and learn things along the way, which stops are more important to you? And once you get there with no influence, zero impact, no reputation, how do you go about identifying, connecting, and getting the attention of the right kind of people that can help you succeed? Super important. So I'd say that's the tips I would start with is, learning what your motivation is, the purpose you have in life. Number two, developing the skill sets that you believe you have the ability to garner, to gain, to develop, and use those in a way that can help other people so they will want to help you back.
Excellent, Gary. That's a lesson in itself. But my last question is going to be one simple question. Please share your thought process about the featured leaders in the book. Like you have certain favorites, right? Including Somdata Singh in the book, who is of Indian origin and aside as global CEO. So please share about the featured leaders, like what prompted you to feature these people in the particular book.
Well, so thank you for that question, because it's a significant part of my book. I wrote a book, and then I decided I wanted to show examples of people that exemplified the concepts I was teaching. So kind of important to prove that this stuff actually works. And so I started with me by thinking, who are the influential, highly influential people that I know that exemplify these principles. So I identified about 4 or 5 that I wanted to start with. And as I went to them, as we had our interviews and we talked about these concepts, they were so interesting to the people that I interviewed that they asked me, do you need more people to interview? So I'm testing my concepts in my book. How do you connect with the right kind of people? By starting with the people I know that I've developed a reputation with, and them saying, I'd like to connect you with other people that can help you with this project. So that's exactly what I teach in the book on how to accomplish anything. So I was introduced, so Brian Esposito, for example, a good friend of mine I've known for 20 years. He used to be one of my clients years ago. He introduced me to a guy named Larry Namer. Larry Namer was the co-founder, I should say, of a company called ET or E-Television, $4 or $5 billion company today.
Yes.
Larry's very well known in the entertainment space, entertainment news, which is something that he and his partner developed the concept for, which was not being done before their time. So Shanti, I had 12 chapters, so I needed 12 people. I wanted it to be half women and half men.
That's amazing, actually, Gary. I'd like to thank you for bringing so many women onto that book, so many women onto that platform where they have shared their experiences. Thank you for that. Really, I'm happy about it. Thank you.
Well, I was the one that was fortunate because I had the opportunity to meet all these people and to interview them. And I have a book tour I haven't probably told you about that's going to start in November in the United States. It's going to go for a year, and we're going to go to 12 major cities. And in most of these cities, there are people that I interviewed. They're going to join me and come and talk about the concept that they talked about in their chapter in my book and why the book's important to them. So I think I'll just summarize this by saying that when I ended up with the 12 leaders, these are mostly global leaders that are well known, 6 women, 6 men. It was kind of like a matching game. So I took the concepts and the interviews and look for nuggets of knowledge that they talked about in our interview that matched a particular chapter. And I was able to do that. It turned out very well. And everybody was happy with the chapter they were assigned to because they personally had knowledge and expertise in those areas. So that's how it turned out. It was remarkable that it turned out that way because you don't know when you're going into this just what the interviews are going to be like. You don't know how it's going to turn out, what they're going to talk about. You can ask questions like you're asking me today, but you really don't know exactly what the answer is going to be.
Yes, and some questions were formed just now. Okay. And Gary, thank you so much. And it's the longest I've gone without, speaking. Generally, it will be the reverse. But today it's my very first interview, I believe, and I sat and asked people questions. I'd like to thank you first for taking a time out on Sunday and being with us. And I request everybody to please follow Gary on LinkedIn He has a very influential group out there where strategic influence is the most important topic, of course. But there are many leaders who are sharing tips, and on LinkedIn, Gary is very, very engaging and so much of valuable content I see. I'm hooked to that. And LinkedIn, Gary, and the reason of my being on LinkedIn is your post, your community. I go through that regularly, and daily two or three people from the community are sending me requests, and I'm sending them requests, and we are adding each other, and that's amazing. So we can find the book on Amazon Kindle. Well, if people can see this, I don't know, it's too bright. I'm showing you the Kindle version.
I'll just
Sorry
show the
that,
title so they can
yeah,
see
this
it.
is the paperback. Yeah. So
And
this is
it's,
a beautiful book. Sorry, Gary, it's too bright. I don't know what.
no problem. So I'll just mention that I wanted it to be available to everybody in the different formats that they like.
Absolutely.
So it's now in paper book, ebook, which is Kindle, and also and Nook. It's on Nook as well, and it's in audio, which is
Audible.
one of my favorite versions, because you can listen to these
Yes.
two great people I hired to do the audio. So listen, thank you so much. It was so nice to spend this time with you, Shanti, and I look forward to meeting many of your friends and associates in India. I look forward to that, and if I can do anything to help anyone, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Gary. That means a lot to us to have you today. And yeah, very happy to have you here. So, well, we'll continue the conversations later, and next time we'll come up with some other topic perhaps. But for the starters, it is very good, right? Strategic Power of Influence, and everybody should buy this book and read this book because it is phenomenal. The language is pretty simple; anybody can understand very well, and it's nice to have a book with 12 stories, and some of the stories women can completely resonate with, right? So the similar kind of experience and problems what we face. So please do read this book, and I'm really happy to have this interview with you, Gary. I'm happy to have this talk with you. Thank you so much, Gary. See you soon.
Well, my honor. Thank you so much, Shanti. I look forward to our next occasion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you.